Hi, and welcome to our podcast today. I'm Dr. Chris Stankovich, and with me today is Mr. Andy Culp, the Superintendent of Grandview Schools, and Sam Belk, Principal of Grandview Heights High School. My background is in the field of sports psychology. I have worked with student athletes for over 30 years. Performance enhancement, life skills development, normal mental health issues, a lot of those kinds of things are what come through my office. I see kids from all over Central Ohio, really throughout the state and country. And so that's what brings me here today, is to have a conversation with you guys about interscholastic athletics in Grandview Heights, what we're trying to accomplish, what our goals are, what are the hurdles that we face unique to our community. So I'd like to have you guys introduce yourselves. Mr. Culp.
Andy Culp, Superintendent of Grandview Heights, and it is an honor and privilege to be here today to discuss all things athletics in Grandview Heights.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I'm Sam Belk. This is my third year as principal of this wonderful institution called Grandview Heights High School. I've been served in many different capacities in education, including coaching. So this is an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
And a former student athlete yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I played a lot of sports in high school and everything like that, and also was fortunate enough to play football in college as well.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
I'll begin with the first question. I mean, we have a community, I think, that really supports athletics. We see that reflected in our community when we have successful programs. We see the bed sheets hanging from the houses. We feel that enthusiasm in the community. We just had a vote last fall to improve our athletic facilities, and I was curious if you guys might be able to expand on that. You know, we see the brick and mortar improvements, but what are we also trying to do on the interpersonal side and how we're offering athletics to kids here and what our expectations are?
Well, I think that athletics is a wonderful extension of the classroom, and that in many instances, the amount of time that a coach spends with the student athletes is far greater than a teacher and or parents in season. And so it is really critical and a major part or opportunity in developing our portrait of a graduate, as well as skills and dispositions and lifelong lessons for their short and long-term success after high school. The lifelong lessons that you can learn by competing in athletics are tremendous and really applicable in all facets of career and or college in terms of the next steps. I do want to also just mention that we're excited and really happy about the investment and bond levy approval that the community supported, and what it will allow us to do in terms of meeting what and how that space is being used today differently than when that space was built in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a real win for our student athletes.
Absolutely. Just as far as like overall the athletic experience of our students, a lot of things come to mind that Andy spoke about as well. But when we think about our school spirit and our school culture and how much athletics can bring a positive vibe in the school and just the overall environment of the community, as you mentioned, totally backs everything we do here, but athletics as well. The teamwork and collaboration piece, I'll speak about, I'm sure today a lot, but that is a big part with me that I think all students should learn in some capacity other than classroom work. And just perseverance and resilience. Along with that teamwork and collaborative approach, you learn a lot of things. You learn to fail, you learn to succeed, you learn to get back up, and you learn to work with each other. And that's all what we're trying to do at Grandview Heights High School in the classrooms and everything else we're working. But if they're learning that on the athletic fields and courts and other places, that's very beneficial too.
I think it's great for our community to hear this and to embrace that this is not just window dressing or putting a new facility out there, but that there is a lot of discussion behind the scenes of how this can be used instrumentally. I think we appreciate that. And I think Sam's point, too, on how you can really dictate the tone of a community. I know we have psychology research that shows even the pronouns that we use. When the local team's winning, it's we're winning, we're kicking butt. When we don't do so well, it's they had a tough game last night, so we differentiate. We know it's really important. Let me go on to the next question. Guys, I'm curious what you guys see as the newest issues and trends. I see different things through my office. One, for example, is over the last 10 years, I've seen increasingly more kids try to compete in 2 and sometimes 3 sports concurrently. And, there's advantages, a lot of opportunity to play with different kids, different teams, different sports, but there's also a lot of conflicts of scheduling issues, there's burnout issues. That's some of what I see. I'm curious what you guys see on the school front.
So a couple responses. First, I think when I was growing up, pretty much everybody played in a rec league, their community rec league, whereby whether it was t-ball, baseball, soccer, football, basketball, everybody in 4th, 5th, 6th grade played in a rec league. Today, the travel and competition teams start younger and younger and have fragmented rec league experience. Outside of maybe football prior to 7th grade, and I would even say to take it into today, oftentimes, in particular in baseball, soccer, to a lesser extent soccer, students in middle school don't even participate in their school sponsor team, oftentimes even in high school, which when I was growing up would be unimaginable. Additionally, I think that, like you said, younger and younger and more kids are wanting to do 2 and 3 sports in season. So, the other thing associated with this is that the travel programs in 4th, 5th grade are year-round. They're not season, they're year-round commitments. And so that presents challenges as well.
Yeah, I think we see 2 sides of the coin here in Grandview, because we pride ourselves on the amount of things that our kids have the capability to do, and that they do participate in these things. But there's also kind of the national trend that so many high school athletes are specializing. And so there's kind of that pull that you'll see we have some great athletes that are participating in a lot of different sports, and some that choose to do singular sports. And it's just a lot of that is the family decision and the student decision, but there's a pull out there from sometimes coaches outside of our buildings that are coming from the college level that are really influencing some, and that's fine to influence them to kind of stick with the singular sport. So that trend has been, and I've seen coming from other districts as well, one that's really speeded up over the past 5 years is where some students are doing that. But what I've noticed when I first came to Grandview was the amount of things our kids do participate in. And it is amazing, but there is burnout on that end too. But picking the singular sport, it's just the same. There can be burnout on that end too. Yeah. And so the key is how we're supporting them.
And I see a lot at my office. It's a catch-22. We have these lofty expectations. We want kids to excel. We want them to participate and be well-rounded and do all these things. But then they inevitably come up into these conflicts, right? I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day, and you can only exert so much energy per day. But yet, this is where we are, right? And they have to continue to pad their stats. I don't know that there's an easy answer here, but I know when I see kids at the office, they often talk about that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any, one additional piece of that question, any thoughts on where student athletes can get help for any of the issues that they have? Obviously, I see kids through the community, but here in the school, if someone has an issue relating to anything we're talking about here.
One of the programs we have partnered with is the Coaches and Beyond program through The Ohio State University. We've had embedded the professional development with Coaches and Beyond for all of our coaches, as well as seasonally. We've even done a couple district-wide events where we require or ask that all of our student athletes participate. We've built toolboxes for our coaches to identify perhaps when they're seeing or suspect issues, as well as give them resources for referral. So whether it is one of our LPCC licensed counselors, Centero counselors, school counselors, school psychologists, as well as even a menu past that of resources that they can tap into. I do think mental health is really important, and that since COVID, we've seen a spike or increase in mental health. And I also think that while all facets of life and school can be stressful, athletics can really heighten that stress.
And you've certainly created that type of an environment here. Compliment to you. I think kids do feel comfortable talking about mental health issues and seeking help when necessary.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Just our student support services, for a capacity of 340 to 350 students each year, the amount of services that Mr. Culp and our schools have provided is amazing. But I think it really comes back to the grassroots team that we have here at the high school and coming up. Our students feel supported inside the classroom, and I think that carries on to the athletic fields and with those coaches as well. So it really is a team approach to each child and their mental health or whatever they're going through, but ultimately getting that child to our student services department, but also taking care of them in the classroom as well with the teachers and everything.
It's fantastic. So, guys, we're in a small community, obviously. Grandview Heights doesn't have quite the number of students as Upper Arlington and Hilliard and Dublin, some of the bigger districts around here. I'm curious what you guys see as unique about our athletic programs, size, the number of kids that participate, the intensity, just any thoughts on the uniqueness here?
I think overall it's a good thing. I think it affords students an opportunity to participate and compete in perhaps more sports than they might otherwise be able to at a larger district. So I think overall it's a good thing. There aren't as many cuts, and maybe even we don't have to have cuts in grades 7 and 8, for example. And that even translates perhaps even into high school. Having said that, I think it also presents challenges in terms of certain grades and sport, where kids' grade levels might be more competitive per se as a result of unique classes, and others might not be as competitive. And so I think that size has something to do with that, right?
Yeah.
But I think overall the positives far outweigh the negatives. And I also think that it allows for our coaches to be competitive, but also to focus on the whole child and try and convey to our student athletes a desire to be a part of something bigger than oneself, and build trusting, meaningful relationships with them, but also as part of a team, and all that means of what does it mean to be an effective and good team member? And so those are all good things, I think, and the degree to which we're able to do that, I think the better.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing I think I've noticed as well is like athletics at a smaller school sometimes can go in waves, like in that particular sports, particular pockets, as Mr. Culp kind of touched on. But I think one of our goals and one of our visions as a athletic department is how do we minimize those waves, and what are we seeing, and just so the kids can still have that feeling of success in an all-around athletic environment in each sport. But yeah, I think you notice that in certain classes and in certain grade levels band together, that you will have waves in certain sports. But we do our best to make sure that we're identifying those and keeping the kids working hard.
That's good stuff. Drilling deeper on us for a moment, I am curious your thoughts on, in my world a lot, we see the difference between participation models and competitive models. I think you were alluding to that earlier, how quickly those splits are made. What are your views here? Because I think sometimes people get a little lost, particularly in our community. Are we going all out to win championships? Are we just an everybody play? I kind of feel like we're a hybrid, right? I mean, based on what you guys are saying here, we try to include as many kids as possible, but we also play hard. We've got banners here. We've got the proof, right?
I think that your middle school and freshman/JV teams generally try and be more inclusive and build skill and development, understanding of what it takes to be a part of a team. And then as you enter into varsity, I think it becomes more and more competitive. Not throwing anything that I just set out, I think you still want to have those key components of fostering a team and a desire to be a part of something bigger than oneself. But the level of competition enhances and increases as you get to varsity. But again, I think uniquely, it isn't all about ever the wins and losses. It's about an experience. Is the team getting better? Is the individual getting better? And how does the team grow and develop? And so looking for continual improvement, not just championships. Mm-hmm. Having said that, to your point, whether it's a soccer state title, a football Final Four, a girls soccer run, a swimming state championship in Carrie Furby, or a wrestling state championship in Hudson Jump years ago. I mean, those are all really amazing accomplishments.
They really are.
And do galvanize a community.
How am I supposed to come back after that, Andy? That was amazing. No, that was he covered a lot of things there, but everybody wants to win every game, and that's I think the mindset of everybody. But we all know that's not a reality. And I talked about perseverance and resilience earlier, and if we're teaching our kids that we want to win, we're not coming out and just rolling the ball out, but if you're learning to persevere, show some resilience in that competitive drive, we should be able to get some wins and get those banners that you're talking about and things like that. And I think that's the work we need to do, just like we push kids individually in the classroom and differentiate that way. When our programs are humming and things are going right, we're meeting every kid where they're at and pushing them individually a little bit. And I think the wins come along naturally when we're able to do that. Yep.
So I want to change gears for a moment. We realize that the vast majority of kids that play here, as well as nationwide, will not go on to compete at the college level. The data shows anywhere from 5 to 7% of all high school student athletes will make it to the college level. Now, when I say make it, we're talking book scholarships, partial scholarships, Division III, no athletic money, walk-on. So those are not all full rides. It's a much smaller percentage. I'm curious what you guys would say are the biggest takeaways. I know clinically speaking, therapeutically, when I'm able to help a youngster identify skills that they've already learned in sports that they often take for granted or falsely assume every kid has learned, they're quite surprised to realize, that setting and achieving goals, learning how to focus, learning how to calm your nerves in sports, these are transferable skills. And they work very well clinically to help a person, or in this case, a kid, get from a tough spot to a better place. And I'm just curious if you have any ideas around what are the most important things that we would really like our kids to take away from sports.
I think grit, determination, being a part of something bigger than oneself, setting goals individually, but also setting team goals. I think also sports teaches you that you don't always get maybe what you individually want, but how you handle that is as important as perhaps getting what you want. And that's a really important life skill that can serve you well past just the specific team that you're on. I think for me, and I think this probably applies to many who've participated in high school sports or college sports, but as you outlined, statistically, most don't participate in college sports. The other really amazing residual positive benefit is the relationships and friendships that you form through playing sports. I participated in high school sports, and I'm 53 years old, and to this very day, some of my closest friends are friends I played basketball with in high school. Yeah. And that relationship is alive and well today, to the point where, I'm godfather to their kids and they're godfather to my kids. My wife's friends with their wife. We still do things together even to this day. And so you can't put a price tag on relationships. And one of the major positive benefits to participating in, whether it's a club or a sport, is the friendships and relationships that you form. Because that is so critical in so many different ways of life, to include mental health.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I say similar stories. We talk about the times as kids in Little League Baseball getting the game-winning hit. Here we are all these years later, decades later, and when we get with our old friends, that's the kind of stuff we end up talking about.
Yeah, one of the things I think about, and Andy kind of hit on it, was character development.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about yourself when you kind of push your limits a little bit, and when you're tested in different ways. I think high school sports, like you said, not everybody gets to go and do things. So when you're able to try new things in middle school, high school, and test yourself in different ways, you learn a lot about your character, that person that you look at each day in the mirror, and what's really going on. Kind of an obvious one is healthy lifestyle habits. I just know, just from my personal experience, I had a coach in high school that he was also my math teacher, and he would always say, hey, I work out in the mornings for X, Y, and Z, and he'd tell me that. And by my junior year, I was working out with him and a couple other coaches in the mornings. And to this day, like, I'm 44 years old, and that is something that I've continued throughout my whole life because of those habits that I picked up and those role models that kind of held that true. And then I think time management is another one. I think that is a big deal when you're juggling so much. We have rigorous curriculum here. In certain aspects, and kids are taking a lot of challenging courses, and on top of that, you're going to basketball from 3:30 to 5:30. You're doing this after. So the things you're learning on a day-to-day basis, sometimes you don't realize it until you step away from it, and you're like, I know how to manage my time. I know how to work a hard schedule, and I can also handle challenges when they come up because I know what I need to get done. So,
and I would argue that's the biggest takeaway, right? I mean, very few make a career, make a living in sports, but boy, if you can take all those skills and apply them, you're well on your way to success.
Real quick, so my wife is a counselor. I'm not. But one of the things I've learned from her is that one's ability, in particular in middle school and high school, and it post to cope with perceived or real problems, and identifying what a real problem is versus a perceived problem. But coping skills today, I don't know if they're better or worse. She might make or posit that they're worse. And there's probably a variety of factors for that, to include social media and cell phone and being on 24/7, et cetera. But I do think that sports can help with that in terms of understanding what a real problem is and what a real problem isn't, but also developing coping skills that can be applied to not just athletics, but your life.
Oh, absolutely. And, if we had more time, we could probably talk for days about that. But I would say just the general structure, understanding time management, understanding how to balance, using your support system of teammates. Again, those are things that we rarely talk explicitly about, but they're invaluable toward this experience. My last question.
I know you know way more about that than I just.
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
I just call them like I see them, and these are the kinds of things that flow through my office. Yeah. Last question, we'll get you out on this. Any just general thoughts, advice on how to maximize the experience here with all the nuance we've already talked about? We're not the biggest place. Our expectations are not to churn out pro athletes, but at the same time, we are competitive. We do measure our value a lot of times by our success with our sports teams. And I was just curious if we can end on maybe some final thoughts there.
Well, I think the most important thing that a coach can do is foster meaningful relationships with the individual student athlete as well as the entire aggregate team. Be clear about their expectations and what it is that they believe and value, and aggregately evaluating whether the team is getting better every day, individual players are getting better every day, that the culture and climate and how they feel individually but also about the team, how is that? And then obviously winning isn't everything, but are they competing?
Yeah.
Is their effort strong? Are they showing up prepared? I mean, those are the things I think coaches need to do and focus on. And the ones that do that and focus on relationships, I think are the ones that are best.
Yeah. You asked for final thoughts as well, correct? Yeah. I mean, that just something that keeps popping in my head, and I know I've talked about teamwork and everything like that, but it's just, again, the connections, not just the relationship piece that you make with friends, lifelong friends, and the relationships that you make with coaches, but just the connections you learn about yourself, about your body, about the world you can learn through sports, about successes, failures, things might not go your way someday. Just there's so many connections that come with athletics that I think sometimes aren't necessarily available to be just put on a piece of paper and soaked in like sometimes curriculum can be. And that's where I think good coaches come in, is to help see players see the connections between the sport, why they're doing it, and how they're doing that for the person to the right and left of them. And I think that's what makes great teams.
Yeah.
And so that's our goal with athletics, and we're going to keep pushing to make every team like that.
Well, I know our community appreciates what you do and your transparency here today. Obviously, sports are more than just cliches and metaphors. You guys take this seriously, and I know that we appreciate that. So thank you very much for your time today.
And thank you for your time. I know you're very busy as well, so appreciate you facilitating this conversation. Lord knows I, as superintendent, don't have it all figured out, but athletics is an important component of the overall student experience for many, so it's an important conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.